This meeting is being recorded.
All right, thank you. All right, welcome everyone to the November 10th, 2021 meeting of the Fairfax County Architectural Review Board. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, the ARB needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record. It's a bit cumbersome, so I ask you in advance for your patience. First, each member of this ARB is participating in this meeting from a separate location. We must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and that an appropriate volume for all other members. Accordingly, I am going to conduct a roll call and ask each ARB member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear your other colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. Ms. Aubrey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Michelle Aubrey, and I'm in my residence in Alexandria, Virginia, and so far I'm hearing everyone fine.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Burns?
Good evening. I'm John Burns. I'm speaking to you from my living room in Alexandria, Virginia. And of the people who have spoken so far, I can hear everyone just fine.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Samantha Huang. I'm at my home at the restaurant. I can hear everyone so far fine.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Kalinsky requested an absence, and he is not going to be at this meeting. Ms. Murray?
This is Elise Murray. I'm calling from my residence in Vienna.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Orr?
This is Kay Orr, and I'm at my residence in Alexandria, and I hear everyone fine.
I do not see Mr. Plumpy at this time. He is supposed to join us, so we'll look for him in the attendees or to join us later and note that in the meeting notes. We received no response from Ms. Notkins. And Mr. Zellman was unable to attend and has requested an absence as well. And I am Chris Daniel, chairman of the ARB, and I am coming from my home in Reston as well. So without our vice chairman, I, at this point, will need to pass the gavel to another member of the ARB if one is so willing to take it. Ms. Murray, at this point, I will pass the virtual gavel to Ms. Murray so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion. I move that each member's voice is adequately heard by each other member of this ARB.
Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Wong seconds. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. As determined by the roll call, 6 members of the ARB are present and therefore satisfy the ARB quorum minimum. The ARB bylaws state that a minimum of 6 members are required to determine a quorum. It is so moved.
Is there a second?
Second. I'll second.
Ms. Orr seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, ma'am. Third, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures. The fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this ARB to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting. And that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require physical assembly of the ARB and the physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that this ARB may conduct this meeting electronically through WebEx, a county virtual meeting platform, and available for access through the ARB County website, or through phone at 1-844-621-3956 with the access code 2331-196-8600. It is so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Orr seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Opposed? Opposed. Motion carried.
Right. It is next required that all matters addressed on today's agenda are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of this board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Wong seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Lastly, the ARB needs to determine how long each member of the public will be able to speak during the public comment periods. The public will be allowed to comment after the consent agenda items and after each action item, as is ARB practice. I move that each member of the public will have 3 minutes to speak.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Orr seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All
Thank
right.
you. Gavel back.
Thank you, Ms. Marie. I appreciate you stepping in. All right. With those items out of the way, staff, Denise, do you have any information to share about WebEx and the meeting platform for any attendees and members of the public?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Daniels. This meeting is being recorded. The recording will be posted online within 10 days. Attendees may email staff during the meeting. Use the Q&A box or chat function in the WebEx platform for inquiries. Staff will monitor and respond accordingly. Attendees experiencing technical difficulties should please call the WebEx technical assistance at 1-866-799-3293.
Thank you, Denise. And as is custom with our ARB meetings, we begin every meeting after all our bureaucratic motion with the reading of the Statement of Purpose and Intent of Historic Overlay Districts. And Ms. Murray has graciously offered to do so.
Historic overlay districts are created for the purpose of promoting the general welfare, education, economic prosperity, and recreational pleasure of the public through the perpetuation of those areas or individual structures and premises that have been officially designated by the Board of Supervisors as having historical, cultural, architectural, or archaeological significance. Regulations within such districts are intended to protect against destruction or encroachment upon such areas, structures, and premises to encourage uses that will lead to their continuance, conservation, and improvement in a manner appropriate to the preservation of the cultural, social, economic, political, architectural, or archaeological heritage of the county. To prevent creation of environmental influences adverse to such purposes, and to ensure that new structures and uses within such districts will be in keeping with the character to be preserved and enhanced. Are you muted, Chris?
I knew I was going to do it today. I had so many meetings and I went through all of them except for this one. Thank you, Elise. Thank you so much. I'll just remind any applicants to try to keep their presentation times to 8 minutes if that's possible for first submissions and for 3 minutes for resubmissions. Following this, we need to do the approval of the agenda. I would ask that any member that moves to approve the agenda strike item 2 for items for actions, as that applicant has withdrawn their application from the meeting. I look for a motion to pass the agenda.
I move that the agenda be approved as amended.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Mr. Burns. I saw a thumbs up from him, so I took it as a second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, moving on to the agenda. Introduction and recognition of guests. Denise, do we have any guests that we need to recognize or introduce?
Sorry, Mr. Plumpy is having trouble getting into the meeting, so we're trying to get him in. So there is a caller on the line, and I'm not sure what their stated business is. Just a second.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Denise, Mrs. Dressel. This is Johnny Burton. I was unable to get my audio working on my laptop.
I'm really glad that you called in, Mr. Burton, because I can see that your microphone is not there, so I was a little concerned. I'm glad that you called in, but You're a little later in the agenda, so thank you. Mr. Burton is representing a workshop item. I'm going to mute you now. Jose Delcid from Supervisor Elkhorn's office is also with us tonight.
All right. Always good to see Jose. All right. Any other guests?
And Mr. Matt Stevenson, I'm not familiar with this name. Mr. Stevenson, can you state your purpose?
Well, I was here. I actually am on the Lake Anne of Reston LARCA's Covenants Committee. So I was here to talk about the second item on your agenda, which was the antennas being installed on the Heron House. But it sounds like they've withdrawn that application. So I was going to get off here in a minute, but you caught me.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Happy to come back whenever they're ready to present to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we move on. We have no consent calendar items for action today. So we move on to our items for action. We go to item number 1 on the new agenda. Item 1 is ARB 21 CTV 02 sign permit for Gopinjang Story Barbecue Restaurant located at 13830 Lee Highway in the Centerville Historic Overlay District. The applicant is proposing a new sign for a new restaurant. Anthony Hahn represents the application.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to do a presentation. I apologize. It's just basically we're trying to put up a sign for the restaurant. It is a Korean barbecue that specializes in small intestine, large intestine, and abomasan. We're not really doing anything to the exterior except putting up the signage. The interior, obviously, we're gonna fix it up a little bit, but that's pretty much it.
All right, that's not. It doesn't have to be a long presentation.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Not all presentations have to be lengthy orations of things. Sign permits are usually pretty straightforward. We also had the packet that you submitted in. So what is normally customary is I will go around to all the different ARB members and see if they have any comments or questions, as well as ask if any member of the public has a comment. So with that, I'll go around to Ms. Albury.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only question really is whether or not the application is in conformance with the county sign permits and any requirements that may be placed by the management of the mall. So that all the signage, I presume the signage is supposed to be consistent with each other from shop to shop.
That is correct. We have gotten approval from the landlord, and everything is up to codes. So I guess they said this was the last step of the process.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And obviously, I will caveat that we frequently can add to our conditional approvals that we make sure that everything is approved by the sign permitting office. Mr. Burns.
Yes, it would have been nice to have a picture of current conditions. I went and looked on Google Street View and discovered that all of the businesses in that locale have very similar signs to the one that is being proposed, similar size, similar mounting, and the like. And so I have no objection to the proposal.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wan?
Mr. Chairman, I have no objection and no comments.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Murray?
Same as Ms. Wong, no objection and no comments.
And Ms. Orr?
No comment, no objection either.
All right, likewise, I have no comments or objections as well. Look forward to some tasty Korean barbecue in the future. That being said, I will caveat that when the motion is made, we can obviously put any condition that obviously the approved sign has to meet all sign requirements subject to those conditions along with our approval. So with that in mind, Denise, are there any members of the public that have any comments on this item?
So if you could raise your hand if you have a comment on this application using the hand raising feature. I don't see any, Chris.
All right. Well, with that in mind, I would entertain a motion from one of our members. Ms. Murray. Oh, but you're muted.
So I could read the motion. Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 21 CTV 02 located at 13830 Lee Highway, Suite 17 in the Centerville Historic Overlay District, tax map number 0544-01-0028A for the proposed sign for a new restaurant as submitted and presented at the November 10th, 2021 ARB meeting. On review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 Historic Overlay Districts.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Aubrey with a hand raise. All right, we have a motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No opposition. Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you, Mr. Hahn. Get in touch with Denise following this meeting later this week, and she will work with you on getting you the approved application. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
All right, I see that Mr. Plumpy has joined us. Joe, could you test your mic so we know that we can hear you?
I can hear you. I can hear all of you. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right, let the record
you so
show
much.
that the technological problems have been surmounted, and Mr. Plumpy has joined us, bringing our quorum to 7. Thanks, Joe.
No problem. I'm in the town of brotherly love, and it didn't like me, so I'm okay. I don't know how to take down my hand. I can't find the control to do that, so I don't have my hand up for any reason. So that's all.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Yep.
All right, let us move on to the agenda. Onward in the agenda, item 2 was struck, the Lake Ann wireless antenna. So now we move on to the new item 2, ARB 21 LFK02, Langley Ordinary Edition, located at 1101 Chainbridge Road, tax map number 0223010063A. The applicant is submitting for approval the final construction drawings with materials and specifications as stipulated in the approval for the conceptual development proposal under ARB 20 LFK01. Doug DeLuca represents the application. Mr. DeLuca.
Hey, sir, how are you?
I'm doing well. I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you, sir.
I believe Denise is handing you the ability to, or going to be able to share content that you might have, and the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate your guys with this meeting tonight. So this is was the final construction drawings that have been approved by the county. The largest thing that came up was, I believe it came from, I would have to look at the comment, but it was setting back the entire, trying to learn how to navigate this. Do I just do the slide bar? I'm sorry, guys. It won't give me control.
Mr. DeLuca, you can hit the arrow. This is Laura Arsenault. You can hit the arrow on the top of the PDF.
Yes, ma'am.
That won't work.
No, ma'am.
So Mr. DeLuca is not actually, I can't make him a presenter, so I've called up his drawings, his submittal myself.
So
Proceed.
Denise will present the drawing for you, Mr. DeLuca.
I'm so sorry. Sorry, Mr. Daniel.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right.
So Denise, if you could go to slide 2, this is the existing layout. And then if you could go to slide 3, and continue to slide 4. I'm sorry. Thank you. So the biggest consideration that came during this, it was in regards to the setback of the main porch line. This came from the comments from the last meeting that we had. It was in regards to Mr. Burns' concern that the long lead of the porch line would be overdone if it did not have a break in it. We set back the entire construction line past right at the porch. So at the dining room, which now becomes conditioned area, that would be set back 18 inches from the lead of the main gutter roof that runs down. There's a 200-year-old oak that obstructs the view from any public, as well as additional evergreens that it's pretty difficult to see from either walking or driving along Georgetown Pike. And that was the biggest design consideration off of the approval that we already received in concept, was to step the building back to hide it. And then if you go to 3, 4, 5, and 6, all of the materials are spelled out per the specifications. And we've even added the light fixtures, which are the original light fixtures that we used on the carriage house that you guys previously approved. And if you go, if you could go down to I have no control of it. If we could continue, thank you. And if we could keep going. And keep going. I can't see who's going. There you go. So all the materials are present, and this has been reviewed and approved. I can't hear anyone speaking now.
We're not
Okay,
speaking
good.
yet. I was waiting to see if you were done, Mr. DeLuca.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm done. Thank you.
That's all right. It's always a little weird now in this virtual environment.
I don't know. Yeah, we're more concerned our kids don't know how to smile. If you guys saw the school pictures this year, it'd be hilarious.
All right. So what I will do is, obviously, if there are any members of the public that have a comment, please make sure to raise your hand so that Denise may comment on in the future. Otherwise, I will go around for all the members to ask any questions they may have. Ms. Aubrey?
From an archaeological standpoint, I have no questions, no concerns. It is fine. Thank you.
Oh, Miss Aubrey, while I have you, we have a large box of artifacts that were found on the property, and we would love to get them to you. They've been sitting here since you guys approved us 8 years ago, so
Wow.
we'd love to get them into you.
Thank you. I am sure that the collections, Archaeology and Collections Office for the Fairfax County Park Authority would just love to get that box.
Perfect. And we think we found the trash pile too near the vegetable garden.
All right, and they would love to know, to get any information you have as well. The person to contact would be Liz Crowell, Crowell. You probably have been in touch with her in the past for
I
earlier.
can't remember, but I'll definitely reach out to her.
Okay, thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michelle. And I'm sure Denise can send you that information to Mr.
That would
DeLuca.
be perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Burns.
Mr. DeLuca, thank you very much for considering my concern about the uninterrupted line that the original design presented. I'm grateful that you were willing to make that change. I did have one question, though. You said that all of these drawings have been approved.
Yes,
Do you
sir.
actually then have a building permit?
Yes, sir. 2 weeks ago, it was issued.
I was curious as to how that happened without ARB approval in advance of that. That's
I
a question
didn't
for
know.
Denise.
We weren't sure because when we were approved in concept, I didn't know if I had to go back on to show you that there were just certain details that you wanted to see, like the light fixtures and stuff like that. So
Right.
I just assumed you guys approved it and then just wanted me to make sure all the final touches were of your liking.
Right. Well, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. But
Yes,
actually,
sir.
my question was directed at Denise as to how was a building permit issued without formal approval from the ARB?
I have no explanation, Mr. Burns.
Okay, that's something worth checking. I don't think it's an issue in this instance because we have essentially had substantial approval at our last meeting, but it just strikes me as something that is a little out of the ordinary.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. Other than that, I have no questions or concerns about the project and would vote to approve it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burns. Ms. Swan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have the same question as Mr. Chen has, and it already got answered, so I have no further comments and questions.
Thanks, Ms. Hong.
Right. Ms. Murray?
I continue to find this addition disturbing. I feel that if the entirety of what we're looking at be added on, if it had been presented as one package, it would not have been accepted. I feel like the back wall of the house has been eaten away through incremental additions and changes. So there's very little of the fiber of that wall left, as from what I can tell. It's still not clear how the additions are attaching to the first floor additions are attaching to the original house. Second of all, I do think that the peak of the addition is way too low. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Elise. Ms. Orr?
I have no comment.
All right, Mr. Plumpy?
No comment.
All right, well then that brings it back around to me. I agree, Denise, that obviously this isn't a reflection of Mr. DeLuca in this sense, because obviously this did have a conceptual design approval, but the fact that there was clearly a confusion with the building permits folks, and that is a little disconcerting. Thankfully, Mr. DeLuca is well seasoned with us and his property, so knows that we wanted to see him again. So as Mr. Burns said, I wasn't too worried here. I agree. I appreciate that you came back to us with all the items we asked for. I am sympathetic to Ms. Murray's comments about the large amount of additions, obviously recognizing this is a private property and your family is growing, so there's lots of changes that are being done to it. And in the end, there is a thin line that one can walk between being able to do additions in a way that keeps the building intact and compromises its integrity. Obviously, I think the more this happens, the more additions. So hopefully you don't have too many more planned. The cumulative effects of it starts to become a little bit more challenging to parse out.
No, sir. Yeah, this is it. And actually, Jackie is at the hospital right now being monitored. So thank you. Yeah, number 4 is coming.
Well, that is exciting news.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
all goes well with that. Beyond that, I have no further comments. And before we go to a motion, I would look to see if there is any member of the public with a comment. Denise?
Thank you.
Sorry, that was Scout.
I see no member of the public for comment. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, Chris, this is Laura Arsenault. I just looked up the building permit review quickly in Fido in our database while we were chatting. And I don't think it's been processed. I just don't think it's been approved. It says 10/22/2021, and I don't think it's been finalized. So we'll probably get pinged in the next couple of weeks to get it finalized.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Laura. Well, with that in mind, I would look to any member that would make a requisite motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Burns.
Sorry, that was Scout.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 21-LFK, and it's blurred on my copy. I think it says 02, located at 1001 Chainbridge Road in the Langley Fork Historic Overlay District, tax map number 0223010063A, for approval of the final construction drawings of materials and specifications for a new addition to the Langley Ordinary, as submitted and presented at the November 10th, 2021 ARB meeting. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance section 3101-historic overlay districts.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Albury via a hand raise. All right, we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Michelle, is that an aye from you?
Yes, it is an aye. Yes.
All right, Mr. Plumpy, I cannot see you, so I have to hear you.
Yes, approved.
All right, thank you. Any opposed?
Yes. Nay.
One opposed on the motion, and I believe there are no abstentions with that total vote count, so the motion passes 6-1. Thank you very much, Mr. DeLuca. Contact Denise after this meeting, and she will get with you following the final approvals.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. I appreciate everything.
All right, stay well and good luck.
Yes, sir. Have a great night. Thank you.
All right, that item down. We now move on to our new item number 3, ARB 21 WEL02 Wellington at River Farm Design Guidelines, located at 7931 East Boulevard Drive, tax map 1022-01-0020. Laura Arsenault of the Fairfax County Planning Division represents the proposed guidelines. Ms. Arsenault, good to see you.
Hi, everybody. Denise, could you give me presenter mode? I don't know if I can do it myself. Thank you.
Sure. I thought you were co-host. I thought we had.
I know, it's okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just didn't have the.
No worry. The ball. You didn't have the ball.
I didn't have the ball. Except every time we do it, it's not a ball anymore now. It's like a rectangle. Let's see. Let me present and show swap. Can you guys see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. It's a very, very short PowerPoint, but I figured just to give everybody some general information background. I also have Sarah Bonish from EHT Traceries with me tonight to help answer any questions. So a little bit of a background, just an overview. This application is at 7931 East Boulevard Drive in Alexandria. The Wellington at River Farm Historic Overlay District was approved by the Board of Supervisors on April 13th with an amendment recently approved in September. And the next step after that is to bring the design guidelines to you all for review. On October 14th, we came for a workshop item for discussion and received comments. So tonight we're back in front of you for action. Hopefully everyone has been able to take a look at them. I think they're in pretty good shape. And just updates since the last meeting, Ms. Aubrey had sent us comments, including edits to language and edits to a map to remove some of the potential historic overlay district language. Thank you for that. And these edits have been incorporated. Other than that, I'm not going to go through each page, but if there are any comments or concerns, we're happy to kind of take them down and include them, but we are looking for a motion tonight on this item. That's, oh, sorry, I forgot another slide. Next steps, if approved tonight, we'll put the final edits into the document. We will publish this design guidelines on our website. We'll give hard copies to the ARB and staff, and then we'll have an editable file so that we can change anything in the future. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we will be done with the Wellington at River Farm Historic Overlay District process. This is kind of the last piece hanging out. So with that, I'm here to discuss, and I have Sarah Bonish to hear if we have any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Laura. Just a reminder for any members of the public who are here, please either raise your hand or indicate in the chat if you're going to have a comment before any vote or motion made so that we may recognize you. But with that in mind, we'll go around for all the members. Ms. Aubrey.
Thank you. I appreciate there being, they're incorporating there were 3 minor edits, but did need to be made, I felt. Should another word proposed in this document since it's final. I do have one question, and that is, could you remind us of when the public meeting was for this? Because, I mean, we are supposed to have a public meeting, is that not true, before we adopt something as final?
A public meeting for the Board of Supervisors or a community meeting is what you're asking?
Well, I think as a community meeting, because I'm just remembering back to when I first joined the ARB, the Centerville design guidelines were being rewritten, and we did hold a public meeting in Centerville to discuss the proposed design guidelines. So I'm figuring there has to be an equivalent kind of thing for the establishment of the Wellington at River Farm design guidelines.
So the question, we did propose the draft design guidelines when we presented the rezoning application to the community back in March. So they did have an opportunity to look at them then. We also had it included as a draft document in our staff report. So there was an opportunity for the public to review it as well. We didn't set up another separate community meeting after the board approved it. And I was hoping that this could kind of serve as that public meeting. But if we feel strongly we need to reach back out to the community, I think we're happy to do that. I had just believed we had covered that community requirement by having it, the draft in multiple versions being right out to the community.
No, I appreciate that. I was having difficulty trying to remember what had occurred already. And if there were 2 opportunities in the past, in the last year for people to comment, I'm assuming you didn't get much comment at all, but could you share with us? I mean, was there a comment from the public? Because if there was not, or not much at all, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily merit having yet
a community
to
meeting
delay it and have another public meeting.
The opportunity was when we, okay, so I'm trying to, this is way back in March when we presented this community meeting. But at that time, we had a draft set of design guidelines and they haven't changed substantially since that time. And as I said, there was an opportunity if the design guidelines were an issue at the public hearings to have them raised. The property owner wasn't really focused on design guidelines, but we didn't get any comments on them either. And that was part of the package and part of the staff report. And they're over 100 pages, so they weren't, something necessarily that would be missed with that. And once again, I believe that the ARB meeting was another public meeting that we would have an opportunity to comment if there was any. but I didn't receive many comments either from the property owner or from the surrounding community on the design guidelines through the majority of the process. Holland Hills is a little different, but they're much more vocal on their design guidelines, but I didn't receive much during the process.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you very much. I have no further comments or questions or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you,
And-
Ms. Aubrey.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. Mr. Burns?
Yes, first of all, I think that these completed guidelines are great. I think I'm very impressed with the final quality of the product, and so I'm very grateful for the work that the Traceries folks put in and everybody who contributed to the final product. I've been frantically scrolling through this while Michelle was speaking, but several locations in here, there is a highlighted little section of text that said that there's a link missing that will be added, and I just wanted to make sure that those are indeed added. I did not see it on page 16 or 29, which was noted in the motion for approval, but those need to be followed up on as well.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Oh, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Sarah. That's the link back to the overall design guidelines for all the HODs. So we'll have to insert that once that comes forward to be finalized.
Okay,
So,
if that's the case and it's not ready for prime time yet, you might put a little parenthetical expression in that says, this will be a link to the overall design guidelines once approved, or something like that.
yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, just, it's right now, it's just that it's dead. You're wondering why is it dead. But if you have a very brief explanation, I think that would help matters. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. Ms. Wan?
I have no comments.
All right, Ms. Murray?
I have no comments.
All right, Ms. Orr?
No comment.
Mr. Blumpy?
No comment. I do like the blue color. It matches our logo, Studio 39. Thank you so much.
All right. I have to echo John's comments in particular. I do think these guidelines are very impressive, and I'm looking forward to getting all our guidelines up to the same snuff and standard out of the 1990s versions they exist in. To Ms. Aubrey's concern, I think I agree with you, Laura. We've had several meetings on this. I do think this is a unique HOD as well, because it is a single property. It is not a complex collection of various owners. And I think obviously when we do the other guidelines, a lot more concern and consideration is going to need to be given to make sure those individual property owners are very aware of the changes going on. Also, this is a new one, so there's been a lot of eyes on it already. So I'm not as worried about those concerns. But beyond that, no, wonderful. And I have no further comments.
Just one follow-up, Chris. I did get the contact information for the, I guess it's the new president of the American Horticultural Society, who's ever in charge over there, and I will forward these on to him and establish that communication with Denise and myself and him, so that he is aware of all these things and recommendations for his property. So,
have they been aware of them in the past?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. This is not new.
Okay.
They are supportive of the historic overlay district.
We want to get that in a big packet, manila envelope in the mail first day it's been signed.
I know, right? It's just like this big, yeah. No, but we've been in contact with them, and we will, establish that relationship and keep it going.
All right, Denise, are there any hands raised or comments or indicated comments from the public in the chat?
No, there are not.
All right. Well, with that in mind, I would entertain a motion from any of our members. Staff did prepare a potential draft motion if you need some help with this, because I know it's a different motion than normal. Mr. Burns, unmute yourself though.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB-21-WEL-02 located at 7931 East Boulevard Drive, tax map 10022, 010020 for the Wellington at River Farm Historic Overlay District for the proposed design guidelines related to the Historic Overlay District, as submitted and presented at the November 10, 2021 ARB meeting, subject to the following conditions. Any edits submitted before the meeting and those edits discussed at tonight's meeting will be incorporated into the final version of the design guidelines, including modifications to the text in the gray box on page 16, modifications to the map image on page 29, and adding explanatory text to the missing links to the as yet unapproved overall design guidelines for all historic overlay districts. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance section 3101 historic overlay districts.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
To Joe Pompey, I'd like to second it, please.
All right, well, sadly, Ms. Swan beat you, Mr. Pompey. Thus is the life. All right, with that said, we have a motion that has been seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay. All those opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Arsenault.
Thank you, everybody. And I just want to say we did it in under a year because they just authorized it November 17th of 2020. So we did it the first one in 40 years. So thank you all so much for your help on this. And we look forward to more. There's more in the pipeline. So thank you all.
DPD needs to highlight that in accomplishments, able to develop guidelines in less than a year in a pandemic.
Heard, noted. We'll pass to my supervisor. Thank you.
All right, that ends our items for action and moves us on to our items for workshop session. Reminder that items for workshop are more informal, allowing discussion, and these are potential future applications that will come in. So full presentations and submissions are not always expected, but I know we've received materials for both of these. Next item is ARB 21 LOR 02, a Tesla solar roof located at 9105 Powerhouse Road in Lorton, tax map number 1071098H0003. The applicant is submitting for workshop for a Tesla solar roof system, roof vent pipe, and fan exhaust upgrade. Daniel Halstead represents the application. Mr. Halstead, are you with us?
Good morning. Good evening. Can you see me or hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Do you have a presentation for us, or is there something?
Yes, I do.
Pull up? All right.
How do I? Okay.
Denise can give you presentation mode. Is that correct, Denise?
Yes, I just did, Mr. Halstead.
Okay. Here, I see my presentation. I don't know if you guys can see it.
We do not at this time. At the bottom, typically, of the WebEx platform, there should be an option for you to share your screen.
Okay. Let's see now. So, well, it depends on which. See, I have two WebExes. Oh, share.
Yeah, it looks
like
I
see. I got it right here.
Okay, good.
Okay, so then we do this. Can you see it now? That's
do not believe we can.
Okay, let's try it again. Take it from the top. Here's screen one. Share. Okay, push this button.
There we go. Okay, yes. Now, yes, we can see the PDF that you have that's 14 pages long.
Okay, I'll be quick.
That's all right. That's all right. I was just confirming with you what I could see.
Okay. So first of all, here's the cover letter I wrote. The bottom line here is The reason I'm asking for a solar roof rather than solar panels is I think it's more in keeping with the design of buildings that are in the community, you know, from a historic standpoint. You know,
If you're talking, Mr. Halstead, we lost you there.
oh, I just went silent because somebody's talking over me. What?
We're not here. I don't think we're hearing anything on our end.
Okay. I don't understand. Well, this is an adventure.
Denise, do you have access to Mr. Alsted's presentation, or?
I believe I do. Would you like me to share my screen, Mr. Halstead?
I'm trying to get rid of the noise. Just a second. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, now we just got to get back to the original presentation. Okay, can you see my presentation now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, what happened was for some reason or other, my browser was open to a previous ARB meeting. I was trying to get familiar with your processes, and it decided it had to come in.
Oh, you were watching the classic hits. Okay.
Right. So anyway, so that's the cover letter. Then here's the application. The point here is reiterating what I just said, that we're going for a tile roof vis-a-vis solar panels because we think it's more aesthetic. We're also asking for a PVC pipe penetration for a stack for radon mitigation. And then to improve the kitchen air quality, we want to put in a larger exhaust fan and a makeup air vent intake. This is a drawing, I guess a sheet 2 of the Tesla drawing package, which I previously submitted. I assume you've all had a chance to look at it. Of note here, the power walls. Well, first of note, the majority of things are internal to the structure. So the only things up for discussion are the 4 quick disconnect switches that will be put on the south side of the residence and the roof itself. The power walls will be in the garage on the far wall. And that's about all there is to talk about here. We can go over the drawing package if you want. I guess I can do that quickly. That's essentially, this is sheet 1 with general instructions and locations. This is the sheet I was just discussing. This is the hookup of all the components. This is the power meter. This is the backup gateway. These are the load centers. And I think this is the, this is all just electrical engineering stuff, more wiring diagrams. This is a list of all the breakers in my power panel. And this is another breakdown of where all the main stuff is. These are the warning labels. This is more verbiage on how power walls operate. This is how the strings for getting power off of all the tiles hook up. This is another power wall thing. This is all the connectors that go through the roof from the tiles and then go down into the backup gateway and power things. This is a representative picture of what the solar roof would look like. This is how the tiles are. This is a PV module. This is a non-power producing module, and this is a representative metal tile. They're all designed to look the same way, so you have a consistent, uniform look across the roof. Going back to this, here's the historic overlay maps that you requested. As you can see, we're located in the northeast corner in the Liberty community. This is a closer view we got from Google Maps. And you can see the guard tower right on the corner here. You can see Gunston Pond is being, well, you can't see it's being, but it is being renovated. And this is what it looks like from an aerial view standpoint. This third house on the street. This is another representative roof installation, as is this. This is what a tile looks like, and these are the specs of it. And here's the guardhouse. This of note is the original guards' quarters, which has a slate roof on it. It's one of the only slate roofs in the neighborhood. Oh, and this is the shot of the residence under construction. This is the back of it, the third one down here. And this is the side, the southern exposure, where the disconnect switches are going to be right here next to the power meter. And then this is the existing exhaust for the fan, which is going to grow sort of by 50%. And then the intake for the makeup air is going to be over here. And this is a breakdown of what the makeup air system looks like, which is essentially an intake vent, a automatic shutter, so that when it's not working, it doesn't leak air. This is a high quality air filter, the fan, a silencer, and then of course, ductwork that goes back into the kitchen. And with that, I'm open for questions.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Halstead. I'll go around to the members. Ms. Aubrey?
I have no comments or concerns. I will be fascinated to know in the future, once this is approved and installed, how well it works.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Mr. Burns?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. Denise, can you put up the roof plan that shows where these tiles will be installed?
Sure. Right here. Oh, a better one. There's a better one. I'm sorry. There.
Okay, perfect. That's exactly. Okay, there it shows that the tiles stop well short of the edges of the roof. And so then they're on page 14 of your drawing set, there is a photograph of these tiles installed on a house, in which it appears as though there are non-electricity producing tiles that fill out to the edges and where the crickets are and the valleys and stuff like that. I mean, is that
That's
the
correct.
intent? Okay, so this map is a little bit deceptive then, in that it, if you just glance at it, it looks as though there will be other areas of the roof where there's no tiles, but the reality
no.
there will be non-functional tiles that will fill in the entire roof surface. Is
That's
that correct?
exactly correct, sir.
Okay, all right. I wanted to make sure that I was clear on that.
Right. And the idea is that they're all supposed to look similar. So to the casual observer, you don't know whether it's a real one or it's just a placebo one.
Yeah. And well, your photograph on page 14 of your drawing set if you zoom in on that, you can tell there's a slight difference at the edge. It's a slightly lighter color or texture than the functional ones. But it's really, the reality is it's pretty effective.
Yeah.
Okay, other than that, those were my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Ms. Swan.
Yes, I do have some question. Where that power wall going to be? Are they the same as a disconnect switch? Or are they different?
Oh, no.
Stuff?
The disconnect switch is an emergency device for emergency responders in case some catastrophic event occurs. It will disconnect the solar panels or solar tiles from the electrical system. And the other thing is a disconnect switch of the power walls from the electrical system so that if we had a power outage, the linemen don't get electrocuted. The power walls are energy storage devices which will be mounted on the north wall of the garage.
Indoor.
Indoors, yes.
Okay.
Nothing on the outside.
And the disconnect switch is mounted outdoor.
That's correct. It has to be mounted where emergency responders can get to it and they're looking for it.
I see.
That's why it's put near the power meter. You know, it's a logical place to look if you're a firefighter or a policeman.
And you have 4 of them.
Yes.
Right. How big are they?
They're pretty standard size, about a foot square.
Okay. I see. Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you so much for your explanation.
Glad to be of service.
Ms. Murray?
This looks like a fascinating project. I think it'll be good, and I'm really intrigued by your ventilation system in your kitchen. That sounds like it'll be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Orr.
I'm just curious if this is 15 or 18, because with the 18 code, you have to have pathways for firefighters to be able to access things. And when I looked at the pattern, I wasn't sure if that was being considered, but of course you're going to have to get it permitted, so they will, they'll check for that, but I just know that that's part of the code to have access for the firemen.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm hoping every roof becomes a solar collector, so I encourage it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Plumpy.
A great presentation. I'm like Ms. Orr. I'd love to see more of this in the county. I do have a Prius with a solar roof on it, but not a Tesla yet. But I was going to ask you this, and this is for my edification. Is it to power the entire house, or are you selling it back into the grid? And what's the approximate cost per square foot on this? Just
okay. Let's see now. In answer to the first question, I think it's designed to provide as much backup as I could get. So it's the surface of the roof is the limitation of how much power it stores.
Yeah.
Well, and how much power it generates. The power walls are the limitation on how much it stores. I don't think it's going to be putting much back into the grid.
got it.
That
Okay.
wasn't the intent. The intent is to have it so that in good solar conditions, it can last pretty much indefinitely.
Cool. And pretty expensive, like their cars or not?
Yes. Yes.
Like how much per square foot? Like per square foot cost, is it $100 a square foot or?
Well, it's more like in how much per kW,
Got it.
and it's a lot.
Okay, say no more. All right, that's why Tesla's stock $1,600 a share today. Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. No, man, that's great. I hope more, as I think, like Ms. Hoare said, and I think it looks really good. And I don't think it's too different than the shingles next door. You're right, the slate is, compatible with this. I'm sure over time, technology will make these to look like even like regular old shingles versus solar shingles, But I like it. It's better than the old school big solar panels mounted to your shingles.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Plumpy. I have to agree with my fellow board members. I'm very happy to see such a project proposed and be proposed in this particular HOD. Obviously, it's on new construction. It's separated from the historic properties that these buildings surround that were meticulously reviewed by this board in the past. So I think your effort to match the existing tile on the existing new construction as best as possible is great. I don't see any concerns from my perspective. I think the package that you've presented is something that should be easy to come back with. I did do your presentation helped because I did a little Googling of my own to get more looks as to what these tiles look like, because I have a very standard image in my mind of solar panels that stand out no matter what you do to them. But I did not have many images of Tesla shingles, which I actually is the way I kind of hoped most solar would go, blending itself in as opposed to standing out like giant panels on top of structures. So, I mean, with that in mind, I think you have a package that seems like it would easily come back for an approval next time you bring it back to us. So I don't have any other questions, and like the others, look forward to seeing it elsewhere around the county. Mr. Burns, you seem like you've got one item you want to add.
Yeah, actually, two questions. One is, do these panels depend on the existing roof substrate for weather resistance, or are they themselves weather resistant? That's one question.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second is another question for Denise, in that the permit information was provided to us says that a permit was issued on October 19th, 2021. And again, my question would be, how was that issued without ARB approval?
So I'll take the second question first. And again, I have no answer for that.
Okay. Again, it's worth checking.
Yeah.
Yes. But if the applicant could tell me whether or not the solar panels are dependent on a roof underneath them for weather resistance, or whether or not these things themselves are weather resistant.
It's a good question to ask. The situation is, I'm spending an extra $10,000 in order to remove the existing roof and put in an approved membrane underneath the solar roof, because I've had some real bad experiences by putting roofs on roofs. And so, yeah, I know what you're going for. Yes, it does have the a good bit of weather resistance. One of the interesting facts about it is, if you've ever lived through a hailstorm and had to replace a whole roof, this roof is individually replaceable. In other words, you can go in, and if you lose a tile, you can go in and replace them individually. So from that standpoint, it may be a cost savings.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the additional information.
All right, with that, I don't think there are any other comments or questions. So Mr. Halstead, unless you have any other questions for us, I think we'll just be looking for you to come back in the future with an application seeking approval.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll see you next month.
All right. Have a good rest of your evening, and look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you. Until then.
All right. As Denise takes back control, we'll go on to our last workshop session item. This is ARB 201 LR 03, screen porch with deck and stairs and stone patio. This is located at 9393 Quadrangle Street, Lorton, tax map number 107109D0011. The applicant is submitting for workshop of a screen porch, deck, stairs, and stone patio in the Liberty subdivision. Mr. John Burton represents the application. We're sticking in Liberty for this session as well. Mr. Burton, are you there with us? I believe you were the individual on the phone.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Daniel.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Assuming that you're on the phone, I believe Denise is going to bring up a presentation. She has a PDF that I think has 8 pages on it, or is there a different one? No, sorry. There is a van meter design build presentation of 21
Yes,
pages.
I think that's the best one to use. Thank you.
Well, if you'll just direct Denise, she'll move the slides and you can take it away.
Okay. So if you go to slide 3, I believe it is, on that presentation. So this is as-built view of the upper floor and the lower floor of my home. We've lived here since 2018. As stated before, the home was built by Van Meter, but at the time we did not choose the deck, so we don't have the entrance exit to the rear of the home. And so at this particular time, we're proposing that we finish both the exit door on the rear as well as the lower level of the home. And so if you go to the next slide, please. So this is a drawing of the extensions of the proposal. On the left, what you have is basically a drawing of the patio, and then to the right, you have a showing of where the stairs would come from the garage on the left side of that drawing down to the lower level, and then entering under the deck and showing the deck itself and the screen porch. The screen porch is on the left side of that picture, directly behind what is the garage, and then it extends over to what would be an exit from the door of the family room out onto an open area for the deck. Those areas are approximately 16 by 18 on the left and approximately 20 by 16 on the right. Those numbers will be adjusted to ensure that we're conforming with the lot line there. So I don't have exact numbers, but I assure you, as I told the Liberty HOA or the Laurel Hill HOA, that we'd ensure that it was within conformance of Fairfax County Code. Next slide. Okay, so this is a colored version of the rendering here. What you're seeing is a view standing on the east side or the rear of the home. We tried to do the architectural drawing in a enhancement of the current architecture with the gabled roof, supported by a sandstone gray trim at the bottom under the screened-in porch. And then the screened-in porch, of course, would extend over, it's about a 5 by 15 area to allow us to come out of the family room during inclement weather to get over to that screened-in porch there. And then the open railings and so forth match the railings that are on the front of the home. So we respect and appreciate the design for this project, and we wanted to make sure that it's in conformance, and we're ensuring that we use the same designs of the materials as much as possible to the original structure. Next slide. So what you're seeing here is a view from the south side, if you will, on the left, and on the right, you're looking more from the east view. This home backs up to a water storm pond. And so we wanted to make sure that the screened-in area was available so that if there were insects and that kind of thing, that we could still enjoy the outdoor area. And what you're seeing on the right photo is a way to get from the driveway down to the lower level underneath the screened-in porch to the patio. And on the left side, you see the patio there with the extended wall. Next slide. Next. So these are just some showings of the type of materials. This is more of a gray stone on the left that would be used for the patio area. And that's the one that we prefer. But we wanted to give some an idea of the stone that we had in mind. Next slide, please. This would be considerations for the wall. We haven't really made a choice, but we wanted something that was in conformance with the other architectural stones that are in the neighborhood. Next slide. So these are, that's a better picture of the stone, if you will. The decking, the railings are almost identical to the ones that are on the front porch. And then the vented windows. Next slide. And these are interior. We also tried to match the lighting on the left. And since this is not hooked to the HVAC system in the home, we will have some external heating mechanisms there. Next. Okay, these are just some color coordinations, if you will, as well as the sliding door as you come out of the family room for an opening to the deck. Next slide. And that's it. The rest of it is a totally different project. Should not have been sent, but since it's there, please ignore it. So the additional comments I have is that we contracted with Van Meter to do renderings. They're very familiar with the area and the restrictions and limitations of the historic overlay district. This is a brick home that backs up to Giles Run Park, bordering Lorton Road and Silverbrook Road. And so we look forward to getting some comments and feedback from you. We have submitted to the Lorton Historical Society, as well as the Virginia Department of Historical Resources and the Laurel Hill HOA. The Laurel Hill HOA approved the project pending approval by the Fairfax County Architectural Review Board. We got notification today from the Virginia Department of Historical Resources. They approved, as well as the Lorton Historical Society, I believe day before yesterday. So thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, I'll try and answer those for you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Burton. I'll go to all our different members. Ms. Aubrey, first as always.
I'd like to thank Mr. Burton for his presentation and for sending in the material ahead of time. I have no questions and I have no comments or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Ms. Aubrey. Mr. Burns.
Yeah, hi. I have a number of questions. Part of that is because I have always recused myself from the redevelopment of this property because it was initially done as a preservation tax incentive project, and I would have a potential conflict of interest if I participated in those discussions. However, this is a completed project now under individual home ownership, and so I think I am not any longer in a conflict of interest position on this. So forgive my ignorance in asking some of these questions if these have already been answered in other discussions of this development as it progressed. Mr. Burton, you are correct. I can see from an aerial Google photograph that you do look out on what looks like a rather marshy stormwater retention pond.
Yes, sir.
So I can certainly understand your need to have a screened porch. No questions about that. But I also noticed from the aerial photograph that you're a direct line of sight to one of the remaining historic guard towers. And I don't know whether it's possible or not, but perhaps when the leaves are off of the trees, he may be within a direct line of sight of the Laurel Hill House. I think at one point was the superintendent of the former prison who lived there. And then the topography really drops off. And so, you know, it will be prominently visible from various locales and all. So for the purpose of coming to us for action, I think it would be helpful if you could take some photographs of your proposed location of your porch and deck from the guardhouse, and then perhaps views toward the guardhouse from you know, out your French door that no longer you can step out of on the second floor, and then also then toward the guardhouse and the Laurel Hill House. I think that would help us to understand better the topography and how those things all fit. Also, in your drawings, I believe I would suggest changing the labeling of the drawing, that the addition with the on the rear of the house is actually labeled the front on your drawings, and then the street elevation it should be the street elevation. But that confused me a bit. I was thinking, like, wait, this faces the street. I
want to make sure I'm seeing this.
Yeah, that's a minor correction in your drawings.
Okay, so
the facade that shows where the new construction will be attached, I believe, is labeled front elevation on your set of drawings. So that threw me for a while. Because I couldn't figure out how the building was oriented to the street, if that indeed was the front. So that's a minor thing, but you know, when you come back for the formal approval, you might want to correct that one tiny little piece there.
Yes, sir. I will take a look at that to ensure that's corrected, because everything that I showed in terms of the actual change for the deck and the screen porch is definitely on the back side of the home. So I'll make sure we get that changed.
Okay, thank you very much. And then I also live in an historic district that has local design guidelines, not county, but local design guidelines. And one of the things that we are required to do is notify immediately adjacent neighbors.
Yes.
So you're a neighbor to the north, I assume that you have had some chats with, so that they aren't surprised by all of this. And I think that would be a very neighborly thing to do if you haven't already done it. And then other than that, I have no further comments or questions, and I look forward to seeing this as an action item next month.
Thank you very much, sir. And yes, we had to have a signature to make our proposal to the Laurel Hill HOA, and they signed off on it.
Okay, one other question. To the north and east of you, there appears to be an L-shaped retaining wall in the landscape.
Yes.
That's okay. So that's what I'm saying. I'm just looking at an aerial photograph, so I'm trying to figure out what that was. But that's a new feature, not an historic feature left from the reformatory.
That's correct. I think that the wall you're looking at was put in by Elm Street, who was the developer of the infrastructure here at the site.
Okay. It's probably meant to stabilize the backyard for the house on Reformatory Way. Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time and the effort you've put into this.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Whole new world for you, right? Ms. Wan.
Mr. Chairman, I have no comments.
All right. Ms. Murray.
I may have missed it in his package, but is there a map that shows where this is?
I don't think I have it in the package, but I can certainly get a view. It's I don't know if you've ever seen a map of the Lorton Prison, but
Miss Murray and many of us have definitive. I think she was more getting at that. That's going to be something we want to see in the package coming in.
Yes, exactly.
Showing the property and its location.
Yes. Mr. Burns has taken care of the comments about your setting, but that is something that does need to be put in context next time we see you. Otherwise, it looks fine to me if your neighbors are happy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We can get that for you. No problem.
All right. Thank you, Elise. Ms. Orr?
No comment.
All right, Mr. Plumpy.
Denise, could you go, please go to the rear elevations of it in the presentation, please? Those renderings. Yeah, that's actually, if you go one sheet forward that had the two views on it. Yeah, thank you. Had a couple questions, and Mr. Burns alluded to the existing retaining wall. What is that made out of? Can you tell us what that is? Is it a brick, stone, or whatever?
Which, I'm sorry, you cut out. I could not hear you.
The existing retaining wall that Mr. Burns mentioned is close by, the L-shaped retaining wall that is built by Elm Street, as you mentioned. What type of material is that built from? You know, what type of?
I've never inspected it, but it appears to be the big blocks that have been used all over the neighborhood to reinforce areas that have a lot of dirt that are at risk of erosion.
Okay.
These are big, huge cinder-like blocks, if you will.
Okay, gotcha. I gotcha. So that's called a segmented precast concrete wall, which is that also gray in color? I take it.
Yeah, yes, it's more of a I would say it's more of a natural stone look, but it's kind of reddish, if you would, in color. Reddish sand reddish kind of stone.
All right, that's fine. My only concern is that there's going to be a lot of different materials out there with your elements and so forth. But that is a site wall, so I'm glad to see that you're going more on the gray tones for your stones versus the browns and so forth. I think it's more compatible with your, with everything else. My only request would be, as Mr. Burr said, take those pictures. That'd be great. But my other only request is, I would only support this if you put Tesla shingles on the new addition. That's all I want to say. But that's it.
Tesla shingles.
It only raise your price about tenfold, but other than that, it's.
Yeah, in case you weren't listening before, Mr. Burton.
Yeah. No. They've been to my house too. They gave me a presentation, so I'm well aware. Thank you very much, Mr. Plumpy.
No problem, sir. All right, take care.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, Mr. Burns and Ms. Murray stole my potential comments. I definitely think some shots for your future application showing the views would be really helpful. So that we can get a better context. That's going to be particularly helpful for some of our members who had to recuse themselves from this presentations in the past. And as Ms. Murray pointed out, a map of the overlay district as well as a map showing the property in the district. All of us were able to, I think, Google and locate it without any problem, but just so we can cite ourselves, because up until recently, we've probably seen a map of Laurel Hill more times than we can count by the Elm Street and the Van Meter folks coming to present to us. So I joined the ARB as they were in the thick of some of these projects. So we've gone through the approvals and the rigmaroles of these different designs. So I think, as many have said, did a good job matching the materials. And I think with those other submissions, it should be fairly easy to bring the application to us next time to come in. Ms. Orr. You look like you have one.
And I don't correct me if I shouldn't, but I'm concerned about the screen porch is dumping water to the wall of, I know there's going to be some sort of cricket, some sort of roof there to get that water off of your existing house, that one that is proud of the other part. Just be aware of that when you're working on this. Do you see that in that it's where all the roofs come together right there?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Just be aware you're going to need something, or else that's going to be a big pile of snow and water, and it'll mess your wall up big time.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Sorry.
Thank you. Can do. Will do.
Thank you, Ms. Orr. So hopefully with all that additional information, Mr. Burton? You have everything you need to potentially put together an application for a future submission. Unless you have any other questions, I think we're good.
Thank you so very much to all of the board members. I appreciate your time.
All right. Look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, you as well. All right, with that, we conclude our workshop session items. We have no identified presentations, which means it takes us on to board and staff items. The first and foremost of which is the review and action on approval of previous month's minutes from October 2021. Denise, did you receive any comments on those minutes prior to the meeting?
I did not.
All right, we now have everyone on the screen, so if you could feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself to anyone who had any comments or revisions to those meeting minutes. Didn't think so. Given they're recorded, it's pretty easy to get them down now. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes and pay the recording secretary. Ms. Murray.
I move that the minutes from the October meeting be accepted and that the recording secretary be paid.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor indicate by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes unanimously. Minutes are approved. Recording secretary paid. We move on to treasurer's report. Denise?
Yes. So I also left this in the administrative file and the share file, but the October's beginning balance was $26,698.23. There was an interest earned of 68 cents and then a withdrawal of 51 cents for an ending balance of $26,698.40.
All right. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to our administrative items. First and foremost, clerk's membership list.
So again, in the administrative file, in the share file, there was a membership list that came from the clerk's office that Ms. Murray had requested. And that is something that I've used as a checkpoint for the History Commission in the past. And I thought it might be helpful for you all to take a look at it and see if there's any corrections that needed to be made from that official membership list.
All right.
Miss Aubrey noted, yes, I'm sorry, I'm going to let you speak for yourself.
I was going to say, if any members have any revisions, Miss Aubrey.
Well, I had already notified Denise that I looked at my own entry and it was fine, but I did notice that there were numerous duplications of several former members. So it made it look like we had a long list of members, when in fact it's not that many pages if you get rid of all the duplications. So hopefully they can correct that.
I found that interesting too, is if was curious as to why some folks got multiple listings on there, but I don't know if any other members had any comments. Obviously, if you note a revision that needs to be made, you can always let Denise know separately so it can be updated. But I think the last time Laura did this, we did this only not too long ago. Any other comments on that item? All right. Seeing none, National Alliance on Preservation Commission's renewal.
So we received, I'm sorry, did somebody?
Nope.
Sorry. Okay. We received notification that the ARB's renewal for the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions is up for annual renewal. The membership is $150 per year.
All right, Denise, does that mean you're looking for a motion for us to pay for said renewal?
if that is what the Architectural Review Board would like to do, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pay the renewal for the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Swan. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Denise, pay our bills.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to discussion, updates, and reports. Colvin Run Mill General Store Report. I believe this is an item from last time, correct?
That's correct. And Grace Davenport has been doing some research, and I believe she's going to, I think maybe I have to, yeah, I do have to pass the ball to her. She's going to give a brief report on what she has found.
All right. Take it away, Grace. Though we cannot hear you.
Can you see me and can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen and we can hear you now.
Okay, great. So good evening, everyone. I'm just, I've compiled some information on the Colvin Run Mill General Store that I was able to find. Just about its history and some analysis on, its standing. Okay. So it was built in either the 1880s or around 1890, and it was owned and operated by Mark Cockrell. And as it is with many historic names, there are lots of variations to the name. But it was originally located on the other side of Colvin Run Road, right across from the mill building. And it moved to its current location in either 1973 or 1974. I've seen both dates, so I just included them both in there. And when it was moved, it was turned 90 degrees and the porch was rebuilt. It reopened in 1975 as a part of the Colvin Run Mill Historic Site, and it featured exhibits and offered guests the ability to purchase related souvenirs. In 1977, the mill building was listed on the National Register, but the listing did not mention the store. And I did find that in 1976, Hamster Dickerson Associates received a merit award for Virginia architecture for the 1976 Honor Awards program, which was sponsored by the Virginia Society of the American Institute of Architects and the Virginia Museum. Work to the building included accessible restrooms in the rear, air conditioning, heating, lighting, and electricity was installed. Now, in 2017, there was an effort to research the feasibility of a federal historic district designation, but the district was determined not eligible due to a lack of integrity. Basically, they weren't agreeing with the boundaries as they had been proposed. VDHR records indicate that it could potentially be eligible if the boundaries match those of Fairfax County's HOD. In the study, the store was listed as a contributing resource to the potential historic district. The store is not individually listed on the Fairfax County inventory, but it is located within a parcel that contains both the Colvin Run Mill and the Colvin Run Mill Miller's House, both of which are individually listed on the county inventory. So given that the store was moved on site in 73 or 74, in 2 to 3 years, it will have reached the 50-year threshold for significance in this location. So that's everything I've been able to compile, but if you have any questions, I will try to answer them.
All right. Rather than going around, if any member has a comment, I've got all you pulled up on my screen, so feel free to raise your hand or interject. Mr. Burns.
A couple of questions. One is on the county real property records, what is listed as the date of construction for this building?
I'm not sure. And I don't know if it would be listed since it was moved from its
Well, that's what I'm
original.
trying to get to is, it could be that, the county might show its construction as the date it was moved, as opposed to when it was originally constructed. I'll also note that the National Register of Historic Places has accommodations for structures that have been moved. And there are regulations about how those things can be considered historic. And then I also note that the 50-year threshold for significance is a rather arbitrary thing. At least certainly within historic overlay districts, Lake Ann Center was listed when it was only 20 years old. So for the feds, maybe that has more importance to their reviews, but for the historic overlay district purposes, it's not relevant, I don't think. But anyway, I would certainly think that this could be considered eligible for the National Register, if that's what you're getting to. But when you say in 2017 the district was determined not eligible due to lack of integrity, what was the lack of integrity? What was it this building as an intrusion?
No, it was new construction on the proposed western boundary line.
Okay. So that the 2017 determination included areas that had new construction, and they're suggesting just cut it back to the HOD boundary, and you should be good to go.
Yes.
Okay.
Grace,
Cool.
I'm going to jump on John's question just because it's about the same thing I wanted to know. So this was a county effort to do a nomination back in 2017, or who was this spearheaded by?
Denise and I assume it was the Park Authority.
So if I can jump in, just today we were looking at the VCRIS file, and Traceries did the report, and I think that would be my next step, is to actually go to Traceries and see if we can get the report from them. But the question arose from Traceries, so I'm wondering if.
Good thing we talked to them a lot.
Yes. But we did not find the consultant's report in the VCRIS file, the electronic files. So I could either go to the state, or I could just reach out and see if I could get the report from Traceries. But that was the conclusion.
And you could also ask the Park Authority. They should certainly have a copy of it.
Yes. If that was an assumption. I don't know who was the sponsor of the study. It's just a Park Authority property, so that thinking that the Park Authority was probably involved.
And I should have clarified this in the beginning, but this was in regard to last meeting's question about just some more historical information about the general store in its relation to the Colvin Run Mill Historic Overlay District Design Guidelines. So I apologize for not doing that sooner.
Oh, that's all right, Grace. I think I preempted you on that when I said it was from last time. So I kind of assumed that everyone knew that was exactly what it was. Miss Aubrey, I see your hand up.
In my review of the Colvin Run Mill Historic Overlay District Design Guidelines, I had raised the question about the general store because it was not identified in any fashion whatsoever. Either it was not identified as a historic property, and it was not identified as a contributing property. So the question I had was, what kind of property? I mean, it's clearly there, and it's we knew when it was originally built, and we knew when it was moved, but it just wasn't classified, categorized as anything for purposes of the Historic Overlay District, other than it's just a structure there, which would lead you to think it was non-contributing if it wasn't identified in any other fashion. But given what she just presented about the 2017 study, it sounds like at that point somebody, and maybe that was the Park Authority, had identified it as a contributing property. So perhaps that's the way we should go and say that designate it as a contributing property. But since it was moved and it's in a different orientation and it's had other things done to it, maybe it should just be a contributing property and not try and make it into one of the quote historic properties. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Michelle. And Laura shared a little bit of info in the chat about it as well, saying that DTA says that it was constructed in 1810 and the year the house was remodeled was 1969. But she said that there are some problems here that apparently the mill and the house are located within the same property. So there's some, I think, some data confusion that we might have there. Barring any other comments from other members, I agree with Michelle that I think we were kind of nodding our head saying this should be treated as contributing. And this seems to just be one of those oversights. And hopefully it's something we could fix very relatively easily with a motion and an update to the guidelines. Any other comments, questions, observations? Otherwise, Grace, thanks so much for that research. I'm not seeing any others, but yeah, thank you so much. I guess, Denise, I guess the question would be for you in the future is, what do we need to do to rectify that approach to make sure that it is recognized as a contributing property to the HOD, and what needs to be done in concert with the guidelines too in their updates?
So just fortunately, we have Sarah Vonish with us. I don't know if Sarah would like to jump in and talk about that, because Sarah brought it to the ARB's attention at the last meeting. So this was a response to the question that she had. Sarah, not to put you on the spot, but what should we do now?
Well, I don't know what you need to do to determine it a contributing property, but I can certainly update the guidelines to make sure it's identified as a contributing resource to the HOD. But I don't know if that requires a vote on your front. But I will go back into our files and revisit what occurred in 2017, because I'm not familiar with it, but someone else might be.
Okay, so
this might not answer right away, Denise, for tonight, but in my mind, if we're going to have to vote to approve design guidelines in the future, one of the things we could bundle in that approval is that clarification. I mean, otherwise, I think it would require us making a motion to recognize it as that. And previous efforts to do that have been sheets of paper notated by county staff in the past that we've relied on. And so I would like it to be something a little bit more efficient, but not necessarily just a staff effort. I want us to do it in some way that's formal, so it's recognized. But that's my 10 cents.
That makes sense.
But no pressure to have an answer right now.
That's what I was going to say. Can we get back to you as to next steps at the next
Thankfully,
meeting?
the general store is not going anywhere, and it's inside the middle of an HOD, so it can't do anything without us talking to them about it. So it's not like we're in a perilous situation. So yeah, if you and Laura and others can get back to let us know if we can fold it into the guidelines approvals, or if it needs to be a separate motion. That'll be I think we can handle that.
Thank you.
All right. I believe next is the Lake Ann Cursory Structural Report Supplement, as well as I think I'm going to piggyback on this too about the letter that I shared with all of you. But I believe Jose, is this the one that Jose is going to talk about? Or is that correct, Denise?
And so Jose is no longer with us, Chris.
Oh, Jose is no longer with us. Okay. Well, then I look to you, Denise, about what this one is about, other than the letter I shared with all of you.
Sure. So the Architectural Review Board was interested in getting a request for quotes on.
Oh, supplements.
Yes,
Yes. Sorry.
on the
Okay. I can
supplement.
give context on this now, Denise. I'm sorry. I
Sure.
didn't see that word. So I pestered Denise enough, I think, that Denise went through the county's IDIQ contracts to seek information on could we get a supplemental report to the structural report done for Lake Anne that would look at it through the lens of historic preservation, looking at it from the standards and guidelines, as well as the HOD requirements, as well as thinking about what types of financial preservation incentives exist. And Denise was wonderful enough to do that. And I believe you've gotten all the estimates, correct?
That is correct. And I provided those proposals again in the administrative file, in the share file.
That's where
I
in the
think
share
it's
file.
called under administrative. And then I think they're called
Yes.
Lake Anne proposals.
Okay, well, then maybe
Yeah,
I
there are
didn't.
3 proposals there.
Okay, I'll have to go look
There
again
are
because I
3.
didn't see them in mine. But
Sure. So, and I can just give you the brief rundown. One, the first one, WSP, I believe they misunderstood the scope. I had a lot of back and forth with them throughout the process, and they really came in well outside the ballpark of what the other 2 were. So I really think they've misunderstood the scope. They came in at 94,000 for a supplemental. Yeah. So I think there's some misunderstanding there. The second one was WJE, and they broke their report into pieces for just for the supplemental report, this supplemental structural report, it would be $9,319. But they've also given us like an ad alternate or peer review of the original report for $2,026, and then adjusted cost estimates for $2,918. So those are in addition to the base supplemental report of $9,319. And then traceries quoted $9,910. So WJ and traceries are within $600 of each other. And WSP was, I just think that there was a misunderstanding about the scope.
okay, I would look for any input on that subject. Obviously, the only other question I would have, Denise, is what's our spending cash available to us, given how much we pay for recording secretaries? How much do we even have to contribute to a cost like that if we did something like that?
And I would have to look into that, Chris, Mr. Daniels. I'm sorry, excuse me, Mr. Daniel.
Call me Chris. That's okay.
I actually, I mean, your budget looks robust to me, but there might be spending that has been allocated that I am not aware of beyond the spending that you all need to do for paying the recording secretary.
Because I guess what I would prime you all with is I shared with you all a letter that I'm drafting to send to Supervisor Alcorn, as well as the Lake Anne Condominium Associate. I'm never going to get it right. LARCA. I always get it wrong. To send it to both their president and Supervisor Alcorn, as well as a lot of other individuals, indicating our efforts as the ARB to try to assist them in rising to meet this challenge presented by the conditions assessment. I've tried to make it very proactive in framing, and as part of that, I mentioned the cost estimates that staff was assisting us with, and that we would be happy to support said costs, but that we as a small board would probably not necessarily be able to foot said entire bills of those costs, and kind of left it open-ended in that capacity as to how that might happen. But I kind of wanted to hear the group's thoughts on both that approach as well as the letter, because that's not something as the chairman I can wantonly commit to. So.
I think I will just share my thought on here. When I first see all these three proposals, I was really happy to see that. My understanding is after supervisors meeting with the resident, they really try harder to understand the original report, and they also realized the report was done, was completely done. So they were thinking about they gonna run another report on top of that report. So it's similar thinking as what we're thinking. At knowing that, and knowing some people living there, knowing they were trying to find the qualified person to help them to get another report done. At that time I was thinking we could have a joint effort there. My take on this is we have not fully engaged with local and the supervisor office yet.
And that was kind of my hope via the letter I was going to send Samantha, was that would kind of trigger further engagement on this effort. The community's had some time to react to the report. We've had some time to digest it, and the hope was that us coming back with, well, we have steps to take a look at the initial assessment that's done and give some further advice. I agree, a larger study is needed. But that's definitely something beyond our means as the ARB. And I think any incentives we can help highlight. That's why I think Denise wrote this in a way that didn't just focus on looking at the assessment, but also highlighting other types of avenues. And to expand upon that, Denise and I participated in a meeting with VDHR staff to talk about various preservation incentives that Lake Anne could potentially avail itself upon. Tax credits, both at local and federal level, depending upon the applicants. Various grants, as well as VDHR also offered to do some tax credit training efforts that they could help provide to folks to help them understand that process. They also gave some general recommendations, like they need to get themselves a tax attorney if they want to do that, just the system, particularly because of the complicated ownership makeup of Lake Anne. You're going to need that help there. But they were very helpful in trying to give some ideas, and were willing to be there with us as well on this. And that the sooner we got in front of the issue, the better, because of the potential concerns we could see with poorly proposed repairs. As John's talked about before, and I think Elise has too, we've seen repairs in the past that have shown up and I did not have that information and guidance. And so we don't want the first one to come into us and us to be the naysayers of anything. We want to be the no, we're happy to help support this because it meets those standards and guidelines.
If I could add something, I think the key operative word in the initial report is cursory. It's right up front in their title, cursory. Regarding the two proposals that Denise summarized for us tonight, I have a very strong preference for the Wisjani Elsner one, because they are one of the premier firms in the country, architecture and engineering firms in the country, dealing with visible, that is, exposed structure concrete buildings. And so they have the expertise behind them. No denigration of the folks from Traceries, but it would be nice to have somebody who can fall back onto a lot of engineering and conservation, concrete conservation expertise in doing that assessment. I would also recommend that you, because the initial report was cursory, that you would take up with Janie Elsner on their two supplemental offerings. That is a review of the findings and a review of the cost analysis. I think that would be money extremely well spent, and it's a pittance compared to the proposed $37 million price tag that the initial report had.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that assessment there. Any other member comments? So what I want, I guess what I would, as from the perspective of the letter, I guess that would be the other question I would ask. But also this is, once, I guess, Denise, what's the step if we think one of these is worth funding? Can we, I believe we as the ARB could fund something like this if we had the money to do so. Correct?
I believe so too. I mean, I think DPD has to enter into the contract. I don't think that the
Yeah.
but it's if you have the money, and I would have to confirm that, but yes, I believe so.
Because I guess the next question would be how, if we wanted to support one of these and one of these studies, not, you know, saying which one at this moment, but obviously some of us have preferences. Would the board want to make a motion to do that in particular? The reason I'm thinking this is I want us to be as quick, as nimble as possible in this situation so that we don't, you know, drag out the time it takes to get something, if we're going to support funding a study, so that that effort can be underway. Because I know the heat and tension for this topic is probably going to continue to bubble. It's been in the Reston papers quite a lot lately. And I'm sure with the winter coming on and the colder temperatures, hopefully they've got all the water issues figured out, but infrastructure is probably going to come up again. So I guess I'm looking for any feedback on, if this is something we're okay with, would the board be supportive of us working with Denise to kind of go approach a contract after we talk to folks with the other entities? I mean, that's the goal, is the letter would come out and perhaps we'd initiate some conversations with potentially LARCA or the supervisor's office to know that we're wanting to supplement their supplement or their cursory report.
Well, following up on Samantha's comments, we want to get a foot in the door early in this. So that's objective number one. The second objective is we are willing to put some of our money into this to make sure that it's done right. I don't think that we should offer to fund it. I think we should offer to help support it. But I think that we should also direct you and Denise to go have a chat with Supervisor Alcorn and see how much he is willing to put his energy, his talent, maybe his pocketbook as the county supervisor into getting this done right, because I think this is the premier site people visit in his district. And so I would think that he would be very interested in having this done right and not having people come back in 5 years or even 2 or 3 years and say, if we had only done X. But we should try to do it right from the get-go and encourage them in any way we can to get them to do it right from the get-go.
Okay.
There is another piece of puzzle here. My understanding is Lake Ann had previously had a low-income residential development that was kind of put down on the side. I do not know what was the issue about it. It was kind of briefly brought up by supervisor. So I do not know what really behind his thinking. If there is a conversation going to happen with the supervisor, I would like to volunteer myself to participate as well, if that is
well, I was going to say, with Sam, Hugh, and I both being residents of Reston, I think it only makes sense that we would both obviously take part in any discussions like that. And as I have the letter written, John, I think as all of you seen, I have it written as support. So that same kind of argument we've made in other situations with the Reston survey and other stuff, that we're willing to put our support behind it, but we don't want to necessarily pull the checkbook out right away. I just wanted to kind of get a read of those thoughts and opinions on that. And I think you're right. A good idea would be any conversation shortly after this letter goes out. And that's why I kind of wrote it in a way that it would go to both LARCA and the supervisor's office, so that if it's a conversation separately with each, or if it's a conversation jointly with them, that's something that Sam and I could both participate in and hopefully engage those parties with our support. I also tried to highlight that we have expertise on the board that folks could avail themselves of. So
that's really what the LARCA member was looking for.
And I think we've done that in the past a lot with applications. So in the future, I think applications that want to come in for this stuff could definitely avail themselves of that. I guess my only other question would then be if the board is happy enough with the letter with any revisions I get, are they okay with me sending it out following this meeting and any further comments? If so, I just wanted to know that for certain, because I didn't want to send out a letter that was about that touchy of a topic without a board, I guess, approval prior to. All right, I'm seeing a general consensus from membership that that's okay. I'll take that as a support of that. Mr. Chairman, I just don't want to go off the lamb on y'all. All right, and John also provided several revisions, suggestions to the letter too, particularly mentioning some code items that might be really helpful, and I think some staff training. And one thing I really like that you mentioned, John, is that, and I don't know, Denise, if you know this, if this is something, I think code enforcement definitely needs someone who specializes in historic buildings. That is an item I'm going to fold into this letter as a item that I really think code needs to work with, and I don't know if they have that. I doubt they do, but you know, maybe you'll surprise me. Okay. I don't see it. Oh yes, of course. So I'm gonna take that as a no. All right.
I will ask them.
All right, thanks, Denise. All right, if there are no other comments on this one, Holland Hills.
Sorry, I
Or-
couldn't find my unmute.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button. Sorry. So you're like, ah. So Holland Hills, we finished up our poll to the community. We are working on cleaning up the results with the supervisor's office and hoping to have an announcement in a few weeks on whether or not we will be moving forward. So stay tuned.
All right. Thanks, Laura. Thank you for maintaining the integrity of our elections.
I never want to do it again. I will tell you that.
All right. Homes Run Acres HOD update.
Famous last words about the poll, never doing it again. So the work group is going to start meeting again next week. And we met with the supervisor's office today to go over the schedule. And we're pushing it out. It's probably going to be another year from when we start now, probably board authorization in next fall. So fingers crossed.
All right. Any comments on that one? Seeing none. Rezoning cases. I got original Mount Vernon High School noted here.
That's correct. So the first application was received under the new zoning standard for alternative use of historic buildings, which stipulates that the board may approve a special exception to allow non-residential uses in a historic structure for the purposes of this section. A historic structure is defined as a structure on the Fairfax County Inventory of Historic Sites. All applications that include exterior modifications to the structure or site will be reviewed by the Architectural Review Board. The ARB will base its recommendation on whether the proposal is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation of historic properties. And the ARB will make a recommendation to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. So I just received the application today. We've had some, because it's a new process and plus is a new process and everything is new, we've had some miscommunications or misdirected communications, but I just received this today, so I haven't looked at it yet. But I will be taking a site visit next week, and this will be coming to the Architectural Review Board for a workshop and then for their review and make sure I got this review and recommendation.
Thanks, Denise. Any questions by members?
Denise, do you know, will they be using the federal preservation tax incentives?
Yes, I believe they will.
Okay, so you'll need to recuse me from those things.
I will try my darndest to remember, but if we could both keep that in mind, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome to send me the materials. It's just I cannot participate in their consideration and deliberation.
Understood. Thank you.
And we'll need to keep that in mind with keeping a quorum since we got pretty close today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. No other questions or comments on that one? Correspondence, announcements, staff, old business. Any old business, Denise?
Only. I mean, I don't know whether this is old or new, but the two letters that we were just discussing. So the Lake Ann letter, I would we've pretty much discussed that, and then the second one was the letter about the courthouse repairs. That's outstanding.
All right, and that one was with Mr. Zellman, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I believe Jason was looking at the History Commission letter, and I'm hoping that we'll hear something about that very soon. But I think we already gave him a blessing to send that out as soon as possible. I'll just add on top of that on mine, if by the end of this week, if you have any comments on that version, please send them to me. Otherwise, I plan to get it out at the beginning of next week. Will be my goal to get it to Denise to route. Is there any other old business? All right, seeing none. Any new business? Mr. Burns.
Yeah, Denise, early in the meeting tonight, you said that the recording of tonight's meeting would be posted, I think you said within 10 days on the website. And my recollection is that we were using these recordings solely for the purpose of creating the transcription for the minutes, and they were being destroyed thereafter. Is something changed?
So I read the script that was provided for me. Laura, can you comment on that?
John, due to the electronic meetings and FOIA requirements, we're required to post them online.
Okay, so there's a new requirement because of meeting remotely.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, but if we were in person and recording it, those were the ones that would be destroyed afterwards.
Correct.
Once minutes are approved.
My caveat is that if we move forward with an in-person hybrid setting.
Oh, hybrid. Okay.
They hate it that I use that word, but if we're in person and then we have some people participating remotely, we haven't got guidance on that. We'll get that more information to you, but my understanding was that since we went fully remote, we needed to have this as part of the FOIA requirements.
Thank you.
John, if you're ever looking to put yourself to sleep, just turn them on and just set them in your,
You can put them on a YouTube queue and you can just go through all the
big.
That being said, I am happy to hear that other applicants were watching them, if that gives them some context on what meetings are like and what types of questions we ask. So
yeah.
I did. Thank you, Laura, for that explanation. And I did direct the more unseasoned applicants to go ahead and look at the YouTube channel. So.
All right. Any additional new business?
I'm going to extend this meeting for about 10 more minutes. Just kidding. But I wanted to say that I did some research on the Chestla shingles during between presentations here, and they are expensive and all that stuff. It's an interesting article. Is a really and I'd be more happy to send it to Denise to circulate, because it's an eye opener, because Chestla had a bad rap with a lot of lawsuits against these shingles and so forth. It's popular, but there's some problems with it. But not to say that we should not approve this guy's thing. It's just a matter of just FYI education. It's way of the future. I don't think all the bugs worked out yet, but I think it's cool. I'm all for it. But it's unfortunate that it's not all the bugs aren't worked out yet. It may take a couple more years or so to make that happen. Make them so seamless. So sorry, Denise, I'll send it to you. Is that okay? Then you can distribute it for those who'd like to see it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
No problem, man. And
All right.
and yes, it is expensive. So that's all I'll say.
I'm not surprised. All right. Well, with that in mind, if there's no other new business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn is always in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good
You have a
Thanksgiving,
good
everybody.
night.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving,
Thanksgiving.
all. Yep.
Peace.
Bye-bye.